I have never wanted two characters to smash as badly in a book as I did in this one. That's the review. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video, I'm just going to be reviewing the book, The Shattered Lands. This was a part of my Lesbian TBR pile, and I was so excited to read this, and now I've read it, I've got some thoughts. This video is not spoiler free. You have been warned. If you're not familiar with The Shattered Lands, it's a sapphic young adult novel about a princess who falls for a dark witch with the power to destroy her life and kingdom. God, I wish that were me. So I'm going to start with what I liked about the book. First of all, I absolutely love that this book is a sapphic enemies to lovers romance between a princess and a witch. It's what dreams are made of. Mine specifically. I wish I'd had a book like this growing up, and honestly, reading this made me feel like a teenager again. I just can't stress enough how much I love the concept of this book. I also love the fact that this book is female-centric and it focuses on various relationships between the female characters. We explore Sapphire's relationship with her mother, we explore her relationship with her best friend Avira, who I was low-key shipping her with. I'm just saying, if there was potentially going to be a love triangle arc, I wouldn't mind if Avira was involved. I'm just saying. And in general, the book just revolved predominantly around female characters, which I appreciated because I love women, sometimes in a gay way. That's true. I thought the author did a good job of building an element of mystery throughout the book, particularly surrounding the history of the Canmores and the Shadow Witches. And she did a good job of creating ambiguity around a lot of the characters' motivations, which of course further added to the mystery. I will say this ambiguity wore a bit thin towards the end of the novel, because you're left in the same place as you began in terms of questioning the characters' true motivations, which is not exactly satisfying after reading an entire novel. I do appreciate that this book is looking like it's going to be part of a series, which is perhaps why the author has made a lot of the characters so ambiguous, but still, a bone would have been nice. And that's what the ladies say about me. Okay. All throughout the novel, I was really curious to know what the twist was going to be in regards to Sapphire's birth and her disappearance. Her being a descendant of the Shadow Witches wasn't exactly shocking. I think most of us saw that coming, but I didn't make the connection that she had grown up behind the barrier at all. That did get me. It was probably really obvious to other people reading this book, but it just went over my head. I just didn't even consider that was a possibility. My one brain cell, very lonely. I have to say, I enjoyed the characters and the character development in the book for the most part. I particularly found Sapphire's struggle with the power that she possessed and her inner darkness really interesting. There's so much potential with that. But the best thing about this book, by far, is the relationship between Sapphire and Ashes. It's lesbian catnip. You have this troubled but otherwise well-meaning princess who falls for this arrogant, morally ambiguous, dark and powerful witch who could potentially be her undoing. It's everything I wanted and more. I have never wanted two characters to smash so badly in a book as I did in this one. That's it. That's the review. They just have such a classic enemies to lovers, I hate you, but I secretly want you, am I going to kiss or kill you, energy going on. I think it's the one cliche part of the book that I really enjoyed. They're a little bit like Princess Bubblegum and Marceline for adults. I just ate up the sexual tension and the romance between the two of them. It's very intensely sapphic. Like I said earlier, honestly, this book made me feel like a giddy teenager reading fan fiction for the first time. I understood the author's vision and I appreciated it. Now, other people have pointed out that they don't think that this book suited a young adult label due to the adult nature of the romance, and I think I have to agree. I mean, the relationship between Sapphire and Ashes is very reminiscent of a dominant, submissive dynamic, and it's very sexually charged and suggestive. And even though there's nothing super explicit in the book, young adult is for 12 to 18-year-olds, and I'm not sure I'd hand this book to a 12-year-old. I also feel like the toning down of their romance, because it was a YA novel, really held the book back. You know, the nature of Sapphire and Ash's relationship is very adult, and the book should have been able to embrace that fully, but it couldn't because it was put in the YA category. I think new adult would have suited the book much better. I would be happy to read the adult version. That's all I'm saying. Going back to the relationship between Sapphire and Ashes, I think I would have been more sour about Ash's betrayal and the ending tearing them apart had the book not ended on a cliffhanger, which so obviously suggests that the story is going to continue. There's still hope for an end game. In terms of continuation, I think there's so much potential for Sapphire and Ashes to develop as characters and to develop their relationship with one another, particularly in terms of power dynamics. There's so much to explore with their own power, how they use that power, and the power that they hold over each other. I quite like the idea of Dark Sapphire working with Dark Ashes, but I also love the angsty longing and the enemies element between them. So I was also pleasantly surprised that throughout most of the book, the lesbian element was normalized and the author was completely unapologetic about it. The only issue that anybody has with the relationship is because of Ashes being a shadow witch. And up until the whole arranged marriage arc with Kyan, which I hated, by the way, it was refreshing not to have any heteronormativity pushed onto Sapphire and to have the sapphic romance as the main focus. But unfortunately, this is kind of ruined by the whole arranged marriage arc. I just don't see why the author felt the need to add that in, or why Kyan couldn't have been a female character instead. And I say this because I'm really suspicious that the author is going to try and create some kind of love triangle out of it. I'm not really against a love triangle arc, I just don't see why the love triangle has to involve a guy. Because like I said, it's the fact that the sapphic romance is the focus of this book that makes it special. Books like this are really rare, and I feel like if she chucks a guy into the mix, oh god, the book just becomes like a lot of other books that I have no interest in reading. Of course, the author can do what she likes with her own characters, but I can also be salty about what she does with those characters. So to be honest, apart from that, the bulk of the criticisms I have about this book really just revolve around the writing, which could have really used some fine-tuning. I've read quite a few reviews of this book, and I have to say, I agree with the people who have said that the book reads like a draft as opposed to a final piece. I understand that the book is written for a younger audience, so the writing will be slightly more succinct. But that doesn't mean the writing has to be basic, which it very much is in this book. The writing is also very repetitive, both in terms of what happens in the novel and with quite literally repeating the same words over and over again within close proximity. It's things like Sapphire consistently going back and forth between her bedroom and the forest to visit Ashes over and over and over and over again. Just a lot more care could have been taken with the pacing and the structure of the book. There's also inconsistencies in it which read as just lazy writing in some parts. For example, there's one point in the book where Sapphire is bone tired. She's really exhausted. And then she suddenly decides to go out for a swim to the forest. It's just one of those books where you say, wait a minute, I thought you just said that, or I thought you just said she did that, and now that's being completely disregarded. And she's now doing this. Oh, okay. Just at times it felt like the author wasn't really thinking about what she was writing. I also found the ending very anticlimactic. The whole book had been leading up to Sapphire breaking down the barrier, and when it finally happened, it was just over in a couple of pages. It felt so rushed. Being honest, I think the reason that I like this book so much, despite a lot of its flaws, is because it's the kind of sapphic literature I've been waiting to read for such a long time. And for that reason, I can definitely look past a lot of its shortcomings. Objectively speaking, the book is fine. It's not the worst thing I've ever read. It's not the best thing I've ever read. It's just fine. As for continuing to read a potential series of this book, I would, but like I said, I'm wary of this whole arranged marriage arc that's going on. I'm just not interested in reading about a love triangle involving a guy. I'm just not. Like, I'm so suspicious she's going to involve Kyan in some kind of love triangle, and I just don't want it. Nobody wants it. Nobody's asking for it. Stop it. If she does take it there, I'll probably be very sour about it and not want to read it anymore. So I'm praying the author does not take it there, even though she might, as revenge for my criticisms of her book in this video. She might, this might be to blame. A book like this, which centers on a sapphic romance, is just so rare. And now that I finally get to read something like this, I just don't want it to become about something else. That might be selfish, but that's how I feel. Okay guys, if you've read The Shattered Lands, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments section below. If you want to support lesbian content and women's voices, come and join the Sapphic Underground Club. Just come and join it. It's pretty much just a monthly tip for the content that I put out. One tip equals one tear on a homophobe's face. You don't need to do it out of love. You can do it out of the hatred deep in your heart. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.